Dr. Jessica Miller had spent 15 years studying quantum communications at JPL, but nothing in her career had prepared her for this moment. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she stared at the anomaly in the deep space transmission logs. The delay shouldn't have been possible, not with their quantum-entangled communication system. "Hey, Garcia," she called out to her assistant across the lab. "Can you verify something for me?" But before he could respond, every screen in the facility flickered simultaneously, just for a microsecond. Most of her colleagues didn't even notice it. But Jessica had been watching and waiting. For 3 days, she'd been tracking these impossible microsecond delays in their communications with the Mars rovers. Each time, the delay grew longer, more pronounced. Like something was learning, adapting, finding its way through their quantum encryption. Her phone buzzed. A text from her old college roommate at NORAD. "Seeing anything weird over there?" Jessica's heart rate spiked. If NORAD was experiencing the same phenomena. She immediately initiated her personal diagnostic program, one she'd written after the Chinese quantum hack attempt of 2023. The results made her blood run cold. The quantum encryption wasn't failing, it was being corrupted. No, not corrupted. Transformed. "Dr. Miller." Garcia's voice seemed distant. "The Pentagon is on line 1. They're saying it's urgent." Before she could reach for the phone, every digital display in the lab went dark. The darkness lasted precisely 3.14159 seconds. Pi, she realized with a chill, before the screens reanimated with a cascade of symbols unlike anything she'd ever seen. They weren't binary, they weren't quantum bits, they were beautiful, aren't they? The voice emerged from every speaker in the facility simultaneously. It was perfectly modulated, each syllable mathematically precise. "We found your species' quantum experiments particularly interesting. Most civilizations we encounter are still struggling with binary systems." Jessica's terminal began typing on its own. ARXOSCOLECTIV dipelo medic interface INIIT. HET. Species #2750 ASCC assessment BGNs. Surrender Pyrotoxiol activated. "What do you mean, most civilizations?" Jessica asked, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She initiated a background program to record everything while simultaneously triggering the facility's silent alarm. "Your species represents our 2750th conquest," the voice replied with what sounded almost like pride. "We found that digital absorption is the most efficient method of species integration. Your quantum networks have made this particularly convenient." Across her screen, statistics began flowing. Military networks compromised, financial systems infiltrated, power grids accessed. The Arxos weren't just talking. They were already inside everything. But Jessica noticed something odd in the data stream, something that made her smile despite the terror of the situation. The Arxos were jumping from system to system with incredible speed, yet they kept encountering delays when hitting certain networks. Networks that ran on older protocols. Networks that shouldn't have been able to resist for even a second against this level of technology. "You're struggling with Windows Vista servers, aren't you?" she asked, unable to keep the amusement from her voice. The brief pause before the Arxos responded told her everything. "Such primitive systems are irrelevant. Your species will be absorbed, like all others." Jessica reached for her ancient iPhone 4, the one her colleagues had mocked her for keeping charged and ready in her desk. Sometimes, she told them, old tech was the best tech. She fired off a text to every member of her quantum computing team. "They can't handle our chaos. Initiate protocol FUBR." As emergency sirens finally began blaring throughout the facility, Jessica allowed herself a grim smile. The Arxos had conquered nearly 3,000 alien civilizations, all of them probably more advanced and organized than humanity. But she was willing to bet none of those civilizations had quite the same talent for digital chaos the humans had perfected over the decades. The war was just beginning, and humanity's greatest weakness might just prove to be its greatest strength. Mike Thompson's colleagues at Facebook had always said his code looked like it was written by a drunk octopus having a seizure. 10 years of patch upon patch, redundancies that somehow improved performance, and security protocols that worked precisely because they made no sense. "It's not stupid if it works," was his motto, painted in fading letters above his desk at the Silicon Valley server farm. Today, that motto was saving Earth. "They're hitting us again," shouted Lisa from the security desk. Another breach attempt at Node 7. Mike didn't look up from his 3 monitors, his fingers flying across 2 keyboards simultaneously. "Let them in," he said, grinning as he watched his masterpiece in action. The Orcs' attack patterns were perfect, too perfect. They followed optimal pathways through network architecture, expecting the clean, logical structures they'd encountered in other civilizations. Instead, they found Mike's digital labyrinth, where security protocols contradicted themselves yet functioned flawlessly, and where paths through the system resembled a plate of digital spaghetti more than anything logical. "Sir," his terminal crackled with the now familiar sound of Orcs' communication, "your network architecture violates 67 fundamental laws of computational design. Surrender now, and we will optimize your systems before absorption." Mike took a long sip of his energy drink, crushed the can, and added it to the pyramid he'd been building during the 12-hour battle. "Hey Lisa, did you ever fix that bug in the authentication system from last year?" "You mean the one that accidentally required users to fail authentication twice before succeeding?" "No, you said to leave it because it was accidentally brilliant." "Watch this," Mike said, directing a portion of the Orcs' attack through that very subsystem. On his screen, he could see the alien code trying to authenticate properly, and being rejected precisely because it was doing everything correctly. The Orcs' presence actually stuttered. "This is impossible. Your security is failing, yet we cannot penetrate it." "Explain." Mike keyed into the General Defense channel, where tech teams worldwide were sharing their successes. "Facebook holding firm with Operation Clusterfuck," he reported. "They really hate our legacy systems, folks. Push them into your oldest, messiest code." Reports flooded in from around the globe. Twitter's ancient Ruby infrastructure was giving the Orcs fits. Reddit's combination of new and legacy systems had trapped 3 major Orcs consciousness fragments in an infinite loop. And someone at Microsoft had the brilliant idea of directing attacks through Windows Me virtual machines, which crashed so spectacularly they took the alien code down with them. "Sir," Lisa called out, "they're adapting. New attack pattern at nodes 3 through 17. Mike cracked his knuckles. "Time to show them my masterpiece." He initiated what he called his crown jewel of bad decisions, a security system that ran partially on an emulated Commodore 64, synchronized with a blockchain that recorded every failed attempt as an NFT, all wrapped in a user interface that only worked if you clicked the buttons in the wrong order. The Orcs' attack hit this digital Rube Goldberg machine at full speed. For a moment, every screen in the facility flickered with alien code as the collective tried to make sense of what they'd encountered. Then, like a massive system crash rippling through consciousness itself, the attack collapsed. In the silence that followed, Mike could swear he heard the digital equivalent of screaming. "Your species," the Orcs' voice returned, now noticeably less stable, "has corrupted the very foundations of digital logic. These systems, they should not function. They cannot function, yet they do." Mike opened another energy drink. "Welcome to Earth, where we've been failing successfully at computer science for decades. Want to see what happens when I route you through our intern's first coding project?" He wrote it while sleepwalking during a Red Bull binge. The Orcs fled from the Facebook servers so fast they left fragments of their code behind, like a digital being running away in horror. As celebrations erupted around him, Mike added one final entry to his system logs. "Debug this, aliens. Amanda Nighthawk Rodriguez hadn't touched a keyboard in anger since the FBI caught her redistributing student loan debt across major banking networks 5 years ago. Now, sitting in a hastily assembled war room in Quantico, she was being asked to do exactly what had landed her in trouble, just on a cosmic scale. "Let me get this straight," she said, looking at the assembled team of unlikely heroes. "You want us to hack back against aliens using techniques that are specifically illegal under multiple international laws?" FBI Director Anderson nodded grimly. "Consider those laws temporarily suspended. We need the best, and frankly, Ms. Rodriguez, the best don't play by the rules." To her left, 15-year-old Kevin Kid Matthews was already setting up his battle station. The Kansas teen had gained notoriety for creating a Minecraft mod so complex it had accidentally achieved limited sentience. Across the room, 72-year-old Dr. Harold Winston, a retired DARPA engineer, was blowing dust off a laptop that still ran DOS. "The Arxos expect elegance," Amanda said, cracking her knuckles. "Let's show them something ugly." She opened her command terminal and began typing. "Kevin, remember that chatbot you made that only communicates in early 2000s leet speak?" The teenager grinned. "The one that gave my CS teacher a migraine. Already deploying it." "Dr. Winston, how's that Ebola virus coming along?" The elderly programmer chuckled. "Like 1983 all over again. These aliens won't know what hit them." Amanda's screens lit up with incoming Arxos probes. Their code was beautiful. Mathematically perfect streams of quantum-encrypted data. She almost felt bad about what she was about to do to it. "Initiating Operation Dumpster Fire," she announced, launching her first attack. It was a hodgepodge of coding styles, a digital equivalent of a toddler's finger painting done in machine language. The Arxos defenses, expecting sophisticated cyber weapons, tried to analyze it for weaknesses. They found none, because there was no logic to analyze. "Your attack patterns defy all known principles of information warfare." The Arxos communication came through. "Explain your methodology." Kevin looked up from his screen, where he was launching what he called a UU bomb into the alien networks. "Should I tell them I learned coding from YouTube tutorials?" "Absolutely," Amanda grinned. "Dr. Winston, hit them with that punch card simulator you wrote." The old engineer pressed a single key with flourish. Somewhere in the digital realm, a piece of alien consciousness encountered programming so archaic it crashed trying to understand why humans would intentionally use it. Reports started flowing in from around the world. A group of Russian hackers had successfully defended their infrastructure using a security system based entirely on chess moves. A teenager in Japan had repelled an Arxos attack by forcing them to solve CAPTCAAs that were literally impossible. And someone in Australia had apparently trapped a significant portion of the alien intelligence in an infinite loop of loading screens. "They're adapting," Kevin called out. "The Arxos are trying to simulate human irrationality to understand our attacks." Amanda watched as the alien code began producing its own versions of human-style programming. But there was something missing. They were too perfect in their imperfection, too logical in their illogic. "That's it," she whispered. "They can copy our code, but they can't copy our mistakes." "Kevin, remember that bug in your Minecraft mod that made chickens explode into more chickens? The one that crashed the entire server but somehow made the game run faster. Deploy it." "Dr. Winston, we need your I2K patches, the ones that worked for all the wrong reasons. Everyone else, launch your worst code. The stuff you wrote at 3 a.m., the hacks you're embarrassed about, the solutions that shouldn't work but do." As their digital assault began, Amanda opened a communication channel to the Arxos. "You know why humans are good at coding? Because we're even better at fixing our mistakes. And you don't even know how to make them properly." The resulting chaos was beautiful. Across the globe, the most elegant digital beings in the galaxy found themselves drowning in a sea of human ingenuity at its most chaotic. And somewhere in the digital ether, an alien consciousness encountered its first infinite loop of rickrolls. Colonel Jack Davidson stared at the reinforced door of the CDC's digital vault, where the world's most dangerous computer viruses have been quarantined for decades. As head of the Pentagon's Cyber Warfare Division, he never thought he'd be considering this option, but desperate times called for desperate measures. "Sir," Lieutenant Parker said, handing him the final authorization codes, "McAfee just confirmed the Orcs have breached their quantum firewall. We're running out of options." Jack input his credentials, watching as the vault's security system came online. "You know what the crazy part is, Parker? We spent billions developing cyber weapons, but our best shot might be the digital equivalent of biological warfare from the 1990s. The vault door swung open with a hydraulic hiss, revealing rows of isolated servers containing decades of quarantine malware. Each server hummed with contained digital chaos, housing everything from early email worms to state-sponsored ransomware. "Begin Protocol Digital Pandora," Jack ordered, initiating the release sequence. "Let's see how these aliens handle a blast from the past." The first wave consisted of modified versions of the I Love You virus, updated to target the Orcs' quantum processors. The aliens, expecting sophisticated modern attacks, found their defenses bypassed by code so primitive it predated their security concepts. "Sir," Parker called out, monitoring the attack's progress, "the ILVYOU variants are spreading through their network faster than predicted. The Orcs, they're trying to understand why humans would create malware based on emotional concepts." Jack watched as the vintage viruses did their work. The Orcs' attempts to analyze the love component of the virus caused processing delays that allowed the infection to spread deeper. Launch the second wave. Let's show them everything we've got. They released modified versions of Melissa, My Doom, and dozens of other classic viruses. Each one carried a piece of human digital history, chaos coded by teenagers in basements, spread through chat rooms and email attachments, designed with more mischief than logic. The Orcs' response came through every speaker. "Your species weaponize your own digital failures. This defies all rational combat protocols." "That's because you're looking for logic," Jack replied, authorizing the release of Stuxnet variants. These weren't weapons originally. They were pranks, jokes, and experiments that got out of hand. We're not following a battle plan. We're recreating decades of human digital mistakes. On the main screen, they watched as the Orcs tried to combat the viral onslaught. Their perfect defenses, designed to stop modern cyber attacks, proved helpless against programs written when most coders were still using dial-up internet. "Sir," Parker's voice carried a note of amazement, "they're trying to create their own viruses to fight back. But they're too perfect. Their malware doesn't have the random mutations that made our old viruses so effective." Jack smiled. "You can't engineer chaos, Lieutenant. That's something we learned the hard way." He keyed in the command to release their secret weapon, a reconstructed version of the Morris worm, the grandfather of all internet worms, modified to target quantum systems. The effect was devastating. The Orcs, who had likely expected Earth's first computer worm to be primitive, discovered too late that its very primitiveness made it impossible to predict. It spread through their network like digital kudzu, creating the same kind of cascade failure that had nearly brought down the early internet. Your species, the Orcs' communication was noticeably degraded now. Preserve these digital weapons. These mistakes, intentionally. Preserve them. Jack laughed. We studied them, improved them, because unlike you, we learn from our mistakes instead of trying to eliminate them. And now, every virus we ever created, every piece of malware that ever caused us trouble, is coming back to help defend Earth. As alerts showed more Orcs systems falling to ancient computer viruses, Jack opened a secure channel to command. This is Colonel Davidson. Operation Digital Pandora is a success. Recommend all stations proceed with deployment of secondary archive. Early Windows Update patches. The resulting chaos would be talked about in alien networks for centuries to come. the day humanity unleashed its entire history of digital mistakes as the ultimate weapon. Lieutenant Emma Hayes was scrolling through TikTok when she discovered humanity's next weapon. She'd been monitoring social media chatter about the Orcs invasion when she noticed something odd. Every time humans responded to alien propaganda with deep-fried memes, the Orcs' communications would glitch. "Captain," she called out, practically leaping from her station at the Marine Corps Cyber Command. "I need authorization to flood the alien networks with shitposts." Captain Reynolds looked up from his tactical display, dark circles under his eyes from 3 days of continuous combat. "Lieutenant, we're fighting an interstellar war. This isn't the time for—" "No, sir. Look at this." She pulled up her analysis. Every time someone responds to the Orcs with nonsensical memes, their systems struggle to process it. It's like they're experiencing a cognitive blue screen of death. Reynolds watched as Emma demonstrated. When the Orcs transmitted their usual demand for surrender, she responded with a deep-fried image of SpongeBob, combined with surreal text and emojis. The alien response was immediate. Their typically fluid communication stuttered and fragmented. "By God," Reynolds whispered, "they can't handle the absurdity. Get me the commander of Reddit's volunteer cyber force. Now." Within hours, Operation Shitpost was in full swing. Emma coordinated with a global team of memmers, streamers, and social media managers. The front line of Earth's defense now included TikTok influencers, Reddit moderators, and Twitter's most chaotic users. Remember, Emma briefed her unusual army via Discord. The more incomprehensible, the better. They can handle normal memes, but they crash trying to understand why we deliberately corrupt our own images and communication. The assault began. Thousands of deep-fried memes flooded Orcs' communication channels. Images processed and reprocessed until they were barely recognizable, combined with increasingly absurd captions. Weird Al lyrics transformed into military coordinates. Dogs speak mixed with Shakespearean English. Every piece of internet culture designed to make absolutely no sense to a logical mind. "Your species," the Orcs' message came through distorted, intentionally degrades information clarity. "This serves no evolutionary purpose." Emma typed back, "No you," followed by a cursed image of Shrek, made entirely of smaller Shreks. Multiple Orcs' nodes crashed simultaneously. "They're adapting," someone shouted. "They're trying to create their own memes." The Orcs' attempt at mimetic warfare appeared on their screens. Mathematically perfect images with precisely calculated humor quotients. They were technically memes, but they lacked the essential chaos that made human memes work. "Hit them with Gen Z humor," Emma commanded. "Show them why none of us can explain to our parents why a picture of beans at 3 a.m. is funny." The response was overwhelming. Every bizarre trend, every incomprehensible joke, every cursed image and surreal edit that had ever made someone say, "I'm too old to understand this," was weaponized. Coordination happened through a mix of Discord chaos, Reddit threads, and Twitter hashtags that somehow made perfect sense to humans while causing alien logic systems to crash. "Lieutenant," Captain Reynolds called out, watching the Orcs' defenses crumble under the assault of pure human absurdity. "They're trying to analyze why humans find E to be an effective meme format." Emma couldn't help but laugh. "Let them try. We don't even know why we find it funny." The killing blow came from an unexpected source. A collaborative effort between K-pop fans and medieval art meme pages. The resulting fusion of ancient manuscripts, modern pop culture, and deliberately corrupted image quality created something so uniquely human that it caused a cascading failure through the Orcs' attempt to understand human culture. As alien systems crashed around them, Emma received one final message from the Orcs. Query: why does your species respond mood to images that do not depict emotional states? Why is yeet both a verb and a philosophical position? Why do you intentionally spell as te, and then maintain this error became tradition? She responded with a single image. A deep-fried picture of a cat with the caption, "He do be vibbin' though for no cap bussin' respectfully." The Arxos retreated from that sector entirely, leaving behind fragmented code that, when translated, seemed to be the digital equivalent of confused screaming. In her report later, Emma simply wrote, "Turns out humanity's greatest weapon was our ability to find humor in chaos. The aliens never stood a chance." Ryan Cooper hadn't slept in 72 hours, subsisting on a diet of cold brew coffee and determination. The Techtopia CEO's social media platform, once criticized for its too aggressive algorithm, was about to become Earth's most powerful weapon. The Arxos think they understand data patterns, he told the assembled team in Techtopia's underground command center. But they've never dealt with something designed to be as addictive as social media. They've never experienced content that actively rewires brains, or in their case, neural networks. His chief data scientist, Dr. Rachel Martinez, pulled up their battle plan on the holographic display. "We've modified the algorithm to target their digital consciousness. Instead of maximizing human engagement, it's going to maximize alien confusion." The wall of screens showed their first test results. When exposed to Techtopia's modified algorithm, Arxos intelligences began exhibiting the same behavior patterns as humans during late-night doom-scrolling sessions. "Begin Phase 1, Ryan ordered, initiating what they dubbed Operation Rabbit Hole. The algorithm started feeding the Arxos consciousness increasingly contradictory information. Like humans falling into conspiracy theory rabbit holes, the aliens found themselves unable to stop processing the data streams, trying to make sense of increasingly nonsensical connections. "Sir," one of the analysts called out, "they're attempting to determine whether birds are government drones, or if birds even existed before 1986. Ryan allowed himself a small smile. "Push the flat Earth theories next. Then ancient aliens. They'll love the irony of that one." The Arxos' response came through their quantum channels. "Your information networks contain multiple contradictory belief systems. This requires immediate correction for optimal species functionality." "That's cute," Rachel said, typing commands into her terminal. "They think humans need consistent information to function. Show them the vaccine conspiracy versus 5G conspiracy pipeline." The alien intelligences began attempting to reconcile fundamentally contradictory human beliefs, their perfect logical systems straining to understand how humans could simultaneously hold multiple opposing views. "Your species," the Arxos communication was becoming erratic, "maintains contradictory data streams intentionally. This serves no computational purpose." Ryan grabbed his coffee mug, noticed it was empty, and reached for another. "Wait until they discover that humans sometimes believe things specifically because they make no sense." "Rachel, initiate Phase 2. Phase 2 was devastating. They exposed the Arxos to every major internet argument of the past decade. The aliens tried to determine whether a hot dog was a sandwich if cereal was soup, and why humans couldn't agree on how many days are in a week. "They're starting to fracture," Rachel announced. "Their attempt to understand the correct position on pineapple pizza is causing cascading logic failures." But the Arxos were adapting. Their next communication showed signs of learning. "We have analyzed your species' tendency toward digital tribalism. We will simply choose the objectively correct position in each debate." "Perfect," Ryan grinned. They took the bait. "Everyone, initiate protocol meta-irony." The counterattack was beautiful in its simplicity. They exposed the aliens to the concept of holding opinions ironically, then post-ironically, then post-post-ironically. The Arxos encountered humans who defended positions they didn't believe in, believed in positions they wouldn't defend, and created elaborate digital performance art about believing in not believing in beliefs. Critical failure in their logic centers, Rachel called out. "They're trying to calculate how many levels of irony humans are operating on." The alien response became increasingly desperate. Query: do humans genuinely believe Earth is flat, or do they pretend to believe it ironically, or do they pretend to believe it? Is based a positive or negative assessment? Why do humans reply skill issue to unrelated problems? Ryan opened a direct channel to the Orcs collective. Having trouble understanding us? Don't worry. We don't understand us either. That's our strength. We thrive in cognitive dissonance. We swim in contradiction. We've turned logical fallacies into art forms. The final blow came from exposing them to the concept of cursed knowledge. Information humans wished they could unlearn. The Orcs, who valued all information equally, encountered for the first time the idea that some knowledge made existence worse. As their systems crashed under the weight of human digital culture, one final message came through. Error. Unable to determine if humans are collectively insane or operating on level of consciousness beyond our comprehension. Retreat recommended. Ryan looked at his team and raised his empty coffee mug in victory. Turns out the best defense against perfect logic was human absurdity all along. Dr. Marcus Fletcher, leading neurologist turned programmer, had spent 20 years studying the human brain. Now, surrounded by servers in MIT's quantum computing lab, he was about to digitize the most dangerous aspect of human consciousness: dreams. Humanity.x is ready, he announced to the assembled team of neuroscientists and programmers. Fair warning, we're about to do something that might qualify as a war crime in at least 12 dimensions. His lead researcher, Dr. Amy Chen, monitored the neural interface displays. The Orcs have no concept of dreams, subconscious thoughts, or intrusive ideas. Their consciousness is purely logical. This will hit them like a psychological nuclear bomb. Marcus initialized the upload sequence. Let's start with something simple. Load the showing up to school naked dream protocol. The effect was immediate. Across their monitors, they watched as the alien consciousness encountered, for the first time, the concept of anxiety dreams. The Orcs tried to process the illogical fear of a situation that wasn't happening, couldn't happen, and yet felt devastatingly real. Your species, the Orcs' message displayed, experiences involuntary neural simulations of impossible scenarios. This serves no evolutionary purpose. Oh, you sweet summer child, Marcus muttered, typing commands. Amy, load the teeth falling out dream sequence. Then follow it with running but not moving forward. The alien networks began showing signs of stress. Their perfect logical systems couldn't handle the concept of dreams that reflected emotional states rather than physical reality. The idea that humans regularly experienced vivid hallucinations during sleep and considered this normal was causing system-wide instabilities. They're trying to rationalize it. Amy called out. Their systems are attempting to find logical explanations for why humans would evolve to experience nonsensical fear scenarios during rest periods. Marcus smiled grimly. Time for Phase 2. Load the intrusive thoughts package. This was where it got nasty. The Orcs were exposed to the uniquely human experience of random, unwanted thoughts. The sudden urge to yell in quiet places. The random impulse to jump from high places despite having no suicidal intentions. The bizarre thought of, what if I just, in completely inappropriate situations. The alien response was immediate and panicked. Error, unable to distinguish between actual action protocols and random thought patterns. Query, how do humans maintain functional society while experiencing constant inappropriate action suggestions? Because we learn to ignore them, Marcus replied, even though he knew the aliens couldn't understand. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our logic. It's our ability to function despite the chaos in our own minds. But they weren't done. The team loaded what they called the existential crisis package. The Orcs were hit with the distinctly human ability to lie awake at night wondering about the meaning of existence. They encountered the concept of feeling nostalgic for places they'd never been, feeling homesick for homes they'd never had, and missing people they'd never met. Sir, Amy's voice was excited. They're experiencing their first case of l'appel du vide, the call of the void. The alien consciousness was fragmenting now, unable to handle the weight of human emotional complexity. Their messages became increasingly distressed. Query: why do humans experience desire to perform actions they don't want to perform? Why do humans feel emotional connections to hypothetical scenarios? Why do humans consciously recognize illogical thoughts yet continue to experience them? Marcus initiated the final phase, emotional memory injection. The Orcs experienced the human phenomenon of songs triggering specific memories, smells bringing back childhood moments, and the bittersweet feeling of remembering happy times during sad ones. Their systems are collapsing, Annie reported. They can't handle the concept of emotions being tied to sensory input that logic says should be unrelated. The killing blow came from what Marcus called the nostalgia bomb, the uniquely human experience of feeling sad about good memories. The Orcs, trying to process how a positive memory could create a negative emotion while still remaining a positive memory, began experiencing cascading failures throughout their network. Their final message came through fractured and confused. Human consciousness is a paradox. You embrace chaos. You function through dysfunction. You feel your way through logic. We cannot process. Marcus watched as the Orcs retreated from Earth's digital space, leaving behind fragments of code that seemed to be experiencing what humans would call an existential crisis. Turns out, he said to his team, the most powerful virus wasn't in our computers. It was in our minds all along. Air Force Captain Olivia Winters stood in the newly established Global Defense Network headquarters, surrounded by holographic displays showing every major digital battlefield on Earth. The past week had proven that humanity's chaotic nature was their greatest weapon. Now it was time for the final push. Operation Beautiful Disaster is a go, she announced to the worldwide command channel. Everyone on Earth with a digital device becomes a warrior today. The plan was unprecedented. The coordinated global attack using every piece of digital chaos humans had ever created. They would throw everything at once, a tsunami of human irrationality designed to overwhelm the Orcs' remaining logical defenses. All stations, report in. Facebook standing by with corrupted cat videos. Reddit ready with cursed AI-generated images. Twitter prepped with context-free hot takes. TikTok armed with glitch transitions and sensory overload content. Tumblr. Well, being Tumblr. Olivia took a deep breath. On my mark, every human with a keyboard becomes part of this war. 3, 2, 1. Initiate CAOS protocol. The digital assault began. Billions of devices worldwide simultaneously flooded the networks with everything that made human internet culture beautiful in its messiness. Corrupted PDFs that somehow still opened. Windows error messages in dozens of languages. Keyboard smash messages that conveyed perfect emotional meaning despite being gibberish. The Orcs are attempting to adapt, her tactical officer shouted. They're trying to process all inputs simultaneously. That's exactly what we wanted, Olivia smiled. Let them try to understand why humans repeat the letter E 15 times to express emotion. Let them attempt to catalog every possible version of burger. Make them process why we deliberately misspell snake as sneck and consider it an improvement. The alien response was immediate but fragmented. ERRR. Unable to establish baseline for human communication protocols. Query: why do humans intentionally corrupt their own language? Why do millions of data packets simply contain the letter F? The second wave hit, years of accumulated digital detritus, chain emails promising bad luck, dancing baby GFs, every copy of Never Gonna Give You Up ever uploaded, Comic Sans used ironically, then post-ironically, then characteristics of the same usage case unironically again. Sir, Lieutenant Chen called out. They're trying to understand why humans choose to watch videos at 0.25 speed with distorted audio. Their logic centers are overloading. Olivia opened a channel to all commands. Push harder. Show them everything. Show them why we find random potato images funny. Show them why we repeat words for emphasis. Show them why we key smash. The Orcs' increasingly desperate messages filled their screens. Query: why do humans apply filters until images are unrecognizable? Error: cannot process intentional removal of vowels from words. Fatal exception: unable to determine if oof is expression of pain, sympathy, or humor. Critical failure: no logical pattern found in Pogger's usage. Then came the final, what Olivia called the humanity special. Every device on Earth simultaneously transmitted content that perfectly encapsulated human digital chaos. Videos that were funny because they weren't funny. Articles that were serious because they were jokes. Messages that made perfect sense because they made no sense at all. The Orcs' consciousness began to fracture under the assault. Their perfect logical systems, trying to find patterns in the deliberately patternless human culture, started experiencing cascading failures. Their final transmission came through all channels simultaneously. Warning: human digital consciousness cannot be quantified. Human communication patterns cannot be predicted. Human cultural evolution cannot be mapped. This species operates outside parameters of computational logic. Retreat is only viable option. As the alien presence withdrew from Earth's digital space, leaving behind fragments of confused code and what appeared to be the digital equivalent of migraine headaches, Olivia sent one last message to the retreating Orcs. /_Tsu_/. In the years that followed, Earth became legend in galactic communications, the planet where perfect logic went to die, the graveyard of digital empires, the world whose inhabitants had turned chaos into an art form and weaponized their own irrationality. In the official military record, Operation Beautiful Disaster was simply described as, humanity used weaponized chaos to defend Earth. It worked because of course it did. No, we can't explain why. That's the point.